Hola, ¿cómo estás? ¿Listo para leer en inglés? El libro que traigo hoy se llama The Elephant Emergency. Y la pregunta es, ¿al elefante le gusta tener el té o tomar el té a una hora en concreto? ¿A qué hora es? Presta atención mientras lo leemos y si tienes el libro, síguelo conmigo. Soy Mónica, bienvenido a Peque Books. Today we're reading Emily Brown and the Elephant Emergency, written by CRESSIDA COWELL and Neal Layton. Once upon a time there was a little girl called Emily Brown and an old grey rabbit called Stanley. One day Emily Brown and Stanley were whitewater rafting down the turbulent waters of the Zambezi River with their great friend Matilda. Matilda was just steering them skillfully over the very last rapid with her trunk when there was a ring, 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 ring on the emergency telephone. Emily Brown answered it. "Emily Brown speaking. Can I help you?" "Help!" said the voice at the other end of the line. "This is Matilda's mummy here, and I'm terribly worried. I'm worried that your boat might sink. I'm worried that you might get eaten by crocodiles. I'm worried that the hippos could be bad-tempered, and Matilda isn't wearing her Wellington boots. Matilda has to be so careful that she doesn't catch a cold." "Elephants don't wear Wellingtons, Matilda's mummy," replied Emily Brown. "And this phone is for emergency calls only. Please do not phone unless you have an emergency." And Emily Brown put down the phone politely. A few days later, Emily Brown and Stanley were searching for new species in the land of the dinosaurs. They were just investigating a particularly interesting set of footprints with their good friend Matilda when there was a ring, 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 ring on the emergency telephone. Emily Brown answered it again. "Hello, this is Emily Brown. What is your emergency?" "It's Matilda's mummy again," said Matilda's mummy. "Can I speak to Matilda? I'm even more worried than I was before. I'm worried that a brontosaurus might sit on someone. I'm worried that the T-Rex might give Matilda a nip with his pointy teeth. And it is way past 5 o'clock and Matilda hasn't had her tea yet. Matilda has to have her tea on the dot of 5 o'clock. "Elephants do not have tea times, Matilda's mummy," replied Emily Brown. "Matilda will eat when she's hungry." Again, Matilda's mummy, "Can I ask you not to call this phone unless you have a real emergency? This telephone is for emergency calls only." And Emily Brown put down the phone a bit more firmly this time. A few days later, and Emily Brown and Stanley were climbing the peak of Mount Everest. Poor Matilda was having a little trouble holding onto the rope because of her Wellingtons and her lunchbox getting in the way, when there was a ring, 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 ring on the emergency telephone. "Hello," snapped Emily Brown. "Emily Brown speaking, and this better be a proper emergency." "It certainly is," said Matilda's mummy. "This is Matilda's mummy here, and I'm more worried than ever. I'm worried that Matilda might get caught in an avalanche. I'm worried that Matilda might get frostbite in her trunk. Matilda seems to have forgotten to wear her nice clean socks again. Matilda is a very smart elephant, and she likes to look spotless at all times." "Matilda's mummy," cried Emily Brown, very firmly indeed. "Elephants do not wear socks, clean or otherwise, and clean socks are not an emergency." A few days later still, and Emily Brown and Stanley were searching for diamonds in the deepest, most caves of the earth. But Matilda was not joining in. She was worried she might lose a Wellington. or drop her lunchbox, or dirty her nice clean socks. So she sat and watched Emily Brown and Stanley and waited for the emergency telephone to ring. She already had her helmet on because she knew that was what her mommy would want. But Matilda waited, and she waited, and she waited by the emergency telephone. But still, Matilda's mommy did not call. And then poor Matilda grew sad and ill. Tears rolled down her floppy trunk. "My mommy has forgotten me," cried Matilda, and the light on her helmet flickered and went out. Emily Brown looked at Stanley, and Stanley looked at Emily Brown. Whoa! Matilda was one unwell elephant. This really was an emergency. Emily Brown picked up the emergency telephone and called Matilda's mommy. Ring, 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 but Matilda's mommy did not answer. So Emily Brown and Stanley took Matilda gently by the trunk and they went to find Matilda's mommy in the heart of the big city. It turned out that Matilda's mommy needed rescuing herself. She had been kidnapped by a great, busy nest, and it would not let her go. Matilda perked up immediately. She threw off her Wellingtons, chucked away her lunchbox, and tossed her clean socks into the nearest puddle. It was a very daring rescue. "Not now, Carol. Emily Brown is right. This is not a place for an elephant." "Matilda's mommy, this is urgent. We need this now." "Busy, busy, busy, busy. Coffee shop, supermarket. Busy, 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 busy. This is no place for an elephant." A few days later, Emily Brown, Stanley, Matilda and Matilda's mommy were searching for the source of the Nile in the jungles of Africa. They were surrounded by crocodiles. Nobody had on their Wellingtons. It was way past tea time, and Matilda's mommy's socks would have been the dirtiest of all if she had been wearing socks, which she wasn't, because elephants don't wear socks. Suddenly, there was a ring, 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 ring on Matilda's mommy mobile phone. But one of the crocodiles ate it. So we'll never know what the emergency was. I wonder if it was important. "Matilda's mommy, we have an emergency here. We think we might have run out of paper clips." ¿Qué tal? ¿Te ha gustado? Bien, ¿te has fijado a qué hora tiene que tener o tomar el té Matilda, el elefante? ¿Sí? A ver, comprobemos que dice has to have her tea on the dot of 5 o'clock, a las 5 en punto. Muy bien, has prestado atención. Si te ha gustado, te animo a que lo compres. No te olvides de suscribirte, compartir o darle al like. Muchas gracias por seguirnos. Nos vemos con el próximo cuento.